Oh, it's now very official because we're recording. Hi, everybody. I'm Alderwoman Lee. You're here at a community zoning change meeting for 500 to 510 West Pershing. It is a request to change the zoning from the current M1-2 to RT4 in order to build townhomes on the property. So with us today, we have Mark Kupiak, who's the attorney for Mr. Barbaro, who is the owner and the developer of the property. Generally, if you haven't been to one of these before, and I think there are a few people who haven't, what happens at these community meetings is that the person that's applying for the zoning change or requesting the zoning change make the presentation, tells you about what they want to do, and then they take Q&A. We answer questions. If you've got concerns about anything in specific, that's what we're here to address. My goal for these meetings is really to get to the heart of any concerns from the community, especially neighbors who are in the immediate area about what is being proposed. And if we can make some tweaks to things. This is the whole purpose of this meeting is to really have this conversation and unearth as many potential issues as we can and have those addressed. And with that, I'm gonna ask Mr. Kupiak to go ahead and get started. And if you ask a question later, if you wouldn't mind just identify yourself, if you're a neighbor, if you're just somebody from the community that's interested, this is an open forum. For those of you that are in the Zoom, you can feel free to raise your hand or to use the chat function. I'll just let one other person in. Hi there, somebody just joined on the line. We're just getting started, so you haven't missed much. This is Alderwoman Lee. If you wouldn't mind muting yourself until you're going to speak, we're going to go ahead and start the presentation from Mr. Kupiak, who's the attorney for the person making the request for the zoning change. Mark, do you want me to share my screen? I have the drawings that you sent over to Carlos.
Yes. Do you have the ability to put those drawings up on the screen?
I do. I'm super fancy like that.
All right.
All right. So here we go.
Good. All right. Just a brief overview. As the Alderwoman said, my name is Mark Kupiak. I'm the attorney for the applicant developer. And we're here at the Alderman's request because we asked for a zoning change for this property. And just a little bit by way of explanation, the property is currently zoned M1-2. The M1 zoning district is manufacturing. Now that's a good district if you want to do some manufacturing or a factory or some type of industrial use, similar to what you see across the street on Pershing with that new warehouse going up. And so those are uses that would fit in the M district. Unfortunately, a residential use is not allowed in the M district. I have with me Bill Barbaro, a neighborhood resident, longtime developer, very experienced, and Bill's experience is in building residential. So his interest would be in rezoning this property out of the M district to a residential district that would allow residential development. And I'll let Bill describe that plan as we go into it. The procedure, though, is, and the reason I'm involved, is because the city has a procedure for rezoning property. And the alderwoman here has her own local procedure here for the community meeting to start off this process, which is why we're happy to be here tonight. So the application is looking to rezone from the M district down to an R4 district. And I think with that, Bill, I will introduce you and let you talk about this plan. Bill Barbaro, you there?
I'm on mute. Okay. Go ahead. This is Bill Barbaro. He is the
My name is Bill Barbaro. I lived in the neighborhood since 1968. I developed quite a bit of stuff in the area here. And I've owned that property since 1993. And I wanted to do something with it instead of having just something, an empty lot to look at with some movements, and try to put something that would help and generate some income to the city and me. So.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you've got planned? I know since the first time we talked, this has been revised fewer unit, right? So 12 is what's being proposed right now. So I have this,
Basically, we're proposing to do 2 sets of 6 units each. They're gonna be facing Normal Avenue. And the other 6 units are gonna be facing the
ballpark
that
pub.
ballpark pub. There'll be a driveway coming in off the alley. So this way, there's no driveway necessary off of Pershing. It'll be private, 24-foot there. That's about it.
I can show you, we have just some preliminary drawings here, right? So this is what the elevation, the east elevation would look like. This would have to, because it's changing from an M1 to an RT4, this would be what's called the type 1 zoning change, which means whatever plans are submitted, whatever we approve is what he has to build. If he wants to vary from that for some reason, RP3 has got to come back and do this process all over again. So, you know, this meeting today is to talk about the zoning change necessary to accommodate building and developing the townhomes on this property. Oh, here's another one. One got kicked out and came back in. Okay. So at this point, does anybody have any questions? I'm gonna go back here so I can see in the chat if people do. If you've got a question, please feel free to use the raise your hand function or drop it into the chat. VN, you've raised, please go ahead, please introduce yourself.
Hi, yes, my name is Veronica.
Hi, Veronica.
I guess I have a question because he was, Mr. Bill was mentioning that the streets, I guess, it's gonna be a private drive. So the street's gonna be closed, it's not gonna have access, and the people are gonna, their owners would be driving through, coming in through the alley.
That is, yes, that is what he
That's
said.
we're proposing.
That's what they're proposing.
We're trying to eliminate, blocking traffic on Pershing Road if we put the driveway off of Pershing. With the light in the corner there, you might, we might end up with a lot of traffic jams and stuff.
Do you have a concern about, do you have a concern about traffic in the alley?
Yes, because the only access to the alley is, I think, Parnell right now. Parnell, you can go through the next one is over, I can't remember, what is it, Canal or Normal?
Normal.
That one's already closed off. There's no exit. It's also a cul-de-sac. And then you'd have to go again through the alley. Is that correct? I guess my concern is, yeah, too much traffic to the alley because we already have townhouses there on Pershing and people go through the alley to get to their garage and parking and the bar.
So right now, all of the access to the townhomes and to the bar are via Pershing?
Through the alley, through the
Through
alley.
the alley.
No,
Yes.
there's a driveway on Pershing.
Yeah.
That they can enter through, and then some people might.
Yes,
just
but
go out
because
the
it's so
house.
much
There's a
traffic.
double entrance there.
Correct, but because there's so much heavy traffic on Pershing, a lot of people don't use that entrance that right, you're stating, Mr. Bill. People come through Parnell and then enter through the alley and go through the townhouses and go to the bar. So my concern is the traffic through the alley.
The only traffic from this proposal is gonna be from the actual units, the actual people that live in that building there, that are gonna be using it. We're not gonna be, this is not a driveway, you won't have any access to get to Pershing. It'll be strictly homeowners that'll have access to get to their actual garage. So there's gonna be no drive-through going like you've got on the other side.
I understand what you're saying, but I live in the area. I live on Parnell. And I always get a lot of traffic because people that come to the bar, because they're going to the game, they're going to the White Sox game, usually gets a lot of traffic in the summertime through the alley, or because they're looking for parking.
Right, so I think, Veronica, I think you raise a great point. And that might be something that we have to, as a ward office and me as the alderman, take a look at in terms of what the access is. And I have had some conversation with the bar owners as well about some of those challenges, because they've got people that frankly cut through their lot to get around. And that's not safe for anybody either. I mean, their parking lot is there for their customers, not necessarily for people to be cutting through on. So there may be something else that we need to do to cut off access for people to just be circling the neighborhood, and going through alleys to try to find parking.
Yeah, I would like to see something different if there's a different strategy of having the owners from that property, entering through another route. I just think that too much traffic in the alley. I mean, the idea of having a cul-de-sac on Parnell, I think, was kind of to lessen the traffic because of the game, and all that stuff. But it seems to just have caused more entrance through Pershing, so people can enter through their apartments and townhouses.
It is an ongoing issue in the ward. Like anything that we do on one place, it's just going to push people to another. So when we look at any sort of traffic changes like that, we've got to look at the whole picture. I mean, not to get totally off topic, but there's been a lot of conversation about people wanting 35th Street closed. And part of the reason why we haven't just done that is because we have to think about how that's going to impact all the residential streets around there. If we close off 35th for any amount of time, imagine what traffic will be by your house. So I think your point's well taken, and I'm making a note of that now. I'm going to go on to another question, if it's okay, if you don't have any other issues you want to raise. Is there anything else you want to raise besides the increase, the concern around traffic in the alley?
No, that's it. But thank you. I just make sure it's noted. Thank you.
Absolutely, Veronica. Thank you. And thank you for asking the question. And we've got a question in the
Hi,
room.
my name is Carol. I just also want to add in relation to her concern that many of the homeowners who live on 38th Place, who have their alleys, their garages along the alley, and then they can't get out and get onto Normal at 39. So they come out of their alley, they go through the alley behind your property and the ballpark to get to Parnell. So we also have to factor in that traffic.
Because of the cul-de-sac, the placement of the cul-de-sac. Okay,
But
no.
most-
Go ahead, Bill.
Most of those people there, though, I mean, if they're getting out of their garages and stuff there, it's strictly a preference of whoever lives there. They just, if they want to get to Pershing, they could, I mean, there is an avenue. You make a right-hand turn on Normal, and you go to 38th Street and come down and do whatever you need to
I
do.
understand that.
But I'm saying is,
So just to go straight west through the alley to Parnell and then go out to exit to.
Right, so, and I think, Carol, you raised, again, same point as Veronica with the traffic, right? And I have had at least one or two other residents come and ask me about the placement of that cul-de-sac and whether or not that can actually be moved, so that it is not blocking the alley, essentially. So this is also, I think, another bigger conversation about I think we've got to look at traffic in that area, which is, we haven't really had to do in the year and change that I've been here, but I think, what you're trying to do, the request that you're making and the concerns that are raised is gonna force the issue of what does traffic management look like over there.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for that. Yes, sir.
Sorry, my name is Conrad. So the alley's only 16 feet, so there's no setback on the townhome away from the alley?
on the north side, there's no setback on it. On the south side, there's a 5-foot setback.
I would think it'd be more important on the alley side, because 16 feet's not terribly a lot in the state.
So, Mark, would that require a variance from the ZBA in order to build to the entire lot line?
That would, yes.
Right, so that is something so what they're proposing right now would still have to get approved, and then would have to pass the zoning board of appeals. The way that,
Are we only going for a zoning change, or are you gonna get a special use or setback too?
so,
Right now, whatever we're doing is strictly for the zoning change. That site plan confirms with the RT4 zoning.
Right, but you're
Yeah.
getting at type 1,
right,
so you're gonna need special uses for any setbacks. Like, I think you need 5 foot from the alley or
Variance.
it's a
Let-
variance,
let-
yeah.
Let's get,
Yeah.
for terminology, special uses, so.
right.
So there, so what's the setbacks on the front and the side?
The front unit's facing normal, there's a 12-foot setback. There's a 24-foot driveway in between the units. And then the units facing west, there's a 5-foot sidewalk and a 21-foot setback to the building.
So your concern though is this right here on the alley.
Well, I'm concerned about that, then I'm concerned about where's the trash cans going. Because, you know, when trash comes up, is it gonna jam it? Is it just gonna park there? We're gonna have cans, are you gonna have them in the garage,
But typically they would be putting them in front of their garage.
Right, and you have a 2-car, looks pretty tight, so those trash cans don't really look like have a lot of space to go. And everybody's gonna get all upset and shoot, a lot of times, they might wanna put them all at the end of the alley.
I can't force people to do,
No,
you know what I'm saying? Is I
I
can make
understand.
allocations. We got a 20-foot townhouse and a 16-foot door, so there's 4 foot left over for a garbage can. You know,
Right, but if you were to put 5 feet at the end, and if they were to put the garbage cans at the end of the block, we wouldn't have any issues at all.
that's something to consider.
Yeah, so that, and I think it's a fair point, because it is, we've already noted, it's a busy alley to begin with. You're proposing 12 townhomes here, which is gonna be, essentially 24 cans, because there's gonna be, one trash can and one recycle bin. Let's just talk about like what the max would be there. It'd be good to have some space allocated for that so that it can,
Have problems in the future.
yeah. So if that's something that you could consider, I mean, I know you've got some just preliminary drawings right here. This isn't sufficient for whatever would be
Right.
submitted for the type 1 anyway. Sorry, got another person trying to get in. So I'm gonna note that as the rear of the property, not rear of the townhomes, but rear of the property setbacks. It's something to accommodate a trash enclosure, if you will, or someplace for the trash cans to be placed, because right now, they would actually just be taking up space in the alley if you're going all the way to the lot line.
Right.
Alderwoman, Attorney Mark
Yes.
Kupiec here. But
Yes.
just to follow up on Bill's point, that Bill, with the design of the garages, there would seem to be room for each person's garbage can by his own garage. Is that not correct?
I mean, the plans, if you look at the plans right now, the parking is basically next to each other.
Well, there's a 16-foot door and the unit is 20 foot, so there's 4 foot of space left.
Is there a main door to get out? Or is
No,
it just the garage?
No, just the garage.
It's just that, go ahead. Sorry,
The
go ahead.
24 foot, I thought townhomes needed 30 feet, we need a townhome.
I did some of them on Stewart Street and there was only a 20-foot driveway. When you do a 20-foot driveway, you set the building back up on the second floor. On the first floor, you could do minimum 20 feet without getting any variances. So we got 24 feet here.
Right, but that, for townhomes, it's 30 feet.
I'm telling you, I did, first floor, you can get away, you can do it with a 20-foot driveway. Once you get up on the second floor, the building steps back 5 feet. And that's.
Are you
according to-
stepping the building back anyway? Or is it just going straight up?
The building is getting set back 5 feet. But there's a demising wall
Right. No,
that comes out right to the edge with the garage wall.
Is there any decks or any patios or?
There's a deck, there's a 5-foot deck on the second floor and there's a 5-foot deck on the third.
Second and third floor?
So there's a 5-foot deck of the kitchen. And then there's a 5-foot deck of the master bedroom.
Is there gonna be any affordable housing in this development?
We're gonna see whatever the city law requires, and if it's required, that's what it will be. If it's not required, it won't be.
I'm not sure of actually the rules for if these building townhomes, these are.
I'm not sure
Yeah.
either. That's why I'm giving
Yeah.
them the same. You know what I mean? So,
Because I don't know the answer. I don't want, so I can get an answer to this question. I don't know, Mark, are you familiar? I don't believe that there are, but I can't give you that with the authority. If this was like a multi-unit, like apartment building, absolutely, there would be an affordable housing requirement. Because those would be for rentals. I believe these are all for individual
they're,
sale.
they're individual sale.
Is there going to be an association for this?
There'll be an association based on what the necessities, for example. If the city, if there's gonna be a water meter for all the units, there's probably gonna be a water meter for the 6 units on the west side.
Mhm.
Based on my past experiences, anything facing the street, they want individual water services.
Okay,
So there'll probably an association to take care of the water bill. Insurance, there's definitely gonna be an association, but it's,
Right.
you know, it's just whatever they would have to take care of.
yeah, if it was and the rules around trash, as far as I know, for townhomes, because they're individual, that they have individual pins, that would be city trash, it wouldn't have to be private. You know, if it was an apartment building with with more than 4 units, it would have to be private trash, so. You know,
Right.
these
And
are
these
all
single
intended for there.
families, the city would be picking up.
Yeah,
And I'll add that, I don't think that the affordable apartment is gonna apply to this, even if they were considering one building, they had 6, so wouldn't hit the.
they wouldn't hit the.
I'm not sure, so I
Yeah,
don't wanna tell you.
He
anything.
worked a lot, actually.
Yeah.
Matt's like our local
Okay.
expert, so, but we can get a definitive answer to that, and I appreciate you asking the question. So I'd love to see just taking some feedback from here. Are there any other questions right now? I'm not trying to end the meeting at all. I just wanted to make sure. If you're on the Zoom call and you have a comment or a question or an issue you'd like to raise, please unmute yourself.
Alderwoman, Mark
Yeah.
Kupiec again, if I can, just to follow up and clarify that, what Bill said. These are 2-car garages, which is a good thing. But generally, my experience is the garbage cans are not a problem with the 2-car garage because that garage door is only 16 feet wide. You get more of a problem on the north side with these 3-unit condo buildings with a 3-car garage where there's no room for the cans. But generally with that 2-car garage and the 16-foot door, there is room for the cans right by the garage, which is more convenient for the people and generally tend to use that rather than walk down to the alley, walk it back and forth.
So you're saying that the trash cans would go in the private drive? And I
Right.
just don't know that Streets and Sands drives down a private drive to pick up people's trash. From what I understand, that they'll pick it up only from the alley.
But typically, my experience,
Uh-huh.
okay. They keep the cans inside the garage.
Until the
And on the
trash day.
pickup day, they bring them out there, and that's, you know, that's my experience, okay?
Yeah, I think it's a really valid concern. Like if I was a neighbor over here, I'd be worried about an additional 24 trash cans and recycle bins out in the alley. I think we have to just have some clarity on that. I think in general, as we've had many of these meetings with, this is the first townhouse development I'm working with. Everything else has kind of been like individual or like bigger apartment buildings. Trash enclosures or making sure that we have sufficient room for whatever trash is being generated by the new construction. Has been a really important thing for all of the neighbors. So just something that for you
Something to keep in mind, yeah.
consider, right? And the fact that these are 2-car garages and there's room, I don't dispute the fact that you could keep these trash cans in your garage. And if I was them, I would want the trash in my garage until it was time for it to be picked up too, because I wouldn't want to walk out to the alley. But that also, you know, I don't want to make assumptions of what people's habits are going to be. I think we need to have something established about what the practice is going to be and whether or not you can build in some accommodation for that. So Mark, these plans are not sufficient enough at this point to submit for a zoning change, right? Just the way that they are right now.
Well, it gives you the site plan with the setbacks. And again, the architect drew the site plan to comply with the city ordinance. And the city zoning ordinance has certain setback requirements for a townhouse project, which is why you see the setback on the street side, because that's the side that's most visible to people driving by. That's why you have that setback on the street versus the alley, which is the less visible side of the building. but the architect draws that site plan to comply with the city's setback requirements, so that the zoning change would hopefully be all we would need. So the site plan is sufficient, and you do have the elevations. So you've got the elevations, so you see what the front facade would look like, and you've got the height of the height of the property. Between now and our zoning committee, the architect could do floor plans if you'd like to see floor plans. So the floor plans could be added, and we're happy to talk further about any questions you have of the plan.
So these are meant to be 3 stories high, 3 stories, and what's the general square footage you're looking at per unit?
They're
That's what the more
they're
detailed
20 by
architectural
40,
drawings would show us.
approximately 20 by 41, each unit, be from the mezzanine wall to the mezzanine wall.
Mhm.
And some of, there might be a little setback in front, so you won't have a straight facade going through it. So it'll vary between 40 foot and 41 foot. And the height's gonna be, there's 9-foot ceilings for second and third floor, there's 27 plus the 2.5 feet, 29. The top ceiling will be about 29 feet.
Okay, and then on this facing the west, facing Ballpark Pub, are you gonna build a fence here?
It's gonna be there's gonna be a fence off the driveway on Pershing. To
Here.
keep the trap right,
Okay,
and then the building, there's gonna be a fence from the building to Ballpark. And then coming down that sidewalk there, so people
So,
come
along
down
the
the
wall.
sidewalk and there'll be a gate for each unit where they'll.
but on the other side of the side, is there going to be a fence that
There's gonna be a fence on the normal street side and then another section to differentiate the property line on each unit.
Okay. Because I'm just thinking if you're facing the side of a building, it might be nice to have separation with an actual fence instead of just.
But there
staring.
is gonna be a fence.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a fence at the property. 5 foot is gonna be common area. That
Uh-huh.
5 foot you see there is gonna be a common area. And right at that 5 foot line, there's gonna be a fence going from the
Right.
alley all the way to.
All the way,
Pershing.
okay, got it.
And
That's
then,
my question, yeah.
and then there'll be a return to each, the center line of each unit. With
For
a
them to
fence will be, so
enter
everybody,
into their unit,
everybody will have
their own private
own
yard, that's.
private
fenced in.
yard, correct?
Okay.
Correct.
Are there any other questions? I'd like some sort of just thought put into the trash issue, and let's get some clarity on that. I think, I've got the 2 main things I'm taking away from this conversation today. Is that there's not necessarily opposition to improving the property with townhomes. It is the question about traffic, which I think is something that I've got to tackle from the neighborhood perspective, not just from these townhomes. And then the question about trash, and there's someone just dropped something into the chat. Will any FAR be purchased from adjacent lots? So you're gonna have to expand on your question here. Mark, is that something you can answer? I don't believe
Sure.
so.
I could answer, and the answer is no. Bill specifically is asking for the R4 to meet both the floor area ratio and the minimum lot area requirement for the 12 townhomes. Generally, as far as purchasing floor area or air rights from surrounding neighbors, you don't see that on a small project like this. You see that on some of these larger projects downtown. So no, there's no need to purchase any air rights or any floor area for this project.
Thanks for that, Mark.
Sure.
Yes, Matt.
Is the curb cut considered for the private alley just to take some of the pressure off of the public alley, or they're concerned that would allow for bypass the whole sack on?
Would you repeat that again?
Was it ever considered to have the alley connect directly to Pershing as an option, just so it doesn't support all the traffic into the public alley?
It's been considered. I consider both points, okay? And the reason it's not a question of getting the cut on the driveway on the Pershing side.
Yeah.
You're creating another avenue for the traffic on Pershing to go through there. I'm trying to
Yeah.
minimize that. If I don't put that driveway there and that section is closed off by a fence or a brick fence, okay? Now, that's all you're dealing with the actual residential units, the homeowners that are gonna have access only to their property. You're not gonna get anybody from, just trying to cut around. it.
Which is part of the issue that exists to
Exactly.
the
with the
west
ball-
with ballpark and the
you
townhomes
know,
that
you-
are,
you
that are
got-
there.
Ballpark has got the driveway on Pershing, so now that's all you're doing is
You're
giving
cutting
people a
through.
way to get in and out. So I'm trying to cut it off and just give them access to the homeowners strictly from the alleys. Period.
Any other questions? I'd like to get the trash question just answered and just straight for everybody so that we can give you Conrad and anybody else that wants to
I'm
know.
gonna talk to my architect.
Okay,
I've got an
you
idea.
got an idea?
I
Okay,
wanna make sure that maybe we could do it with a variance on the
Mhm.
side yard setback. Maybe we can cut down or make the units a few inches smaller, so we can have a
Buy you a little
setback from
cheap
the
for the-
alley. So we can get, I'll work
Yeah.
on that.
See-
There's a
see what
couple
you
of
can
ways
do.
we can do
Yeah.
with it, okay? Like I said, we could get a variance on the setback on the one side, so I could keep it on the alley, put something there. Or, I'll figure something out.
Or what are you gonna do on the parkway? Cause there's a lot of big bushes there. Are you gonna clean those out or,
Oh, the big bushes is city property.
right?
What I'm gonna be able to do is whatever the sidewalk is, I'm gonna, from the public walk. Going inside, including the building and stuff on it, that's what I'm gonna be dealing with. And in that front yard, there's gonna be some landscaping and stuff down on it. Anything on that cul-de-sac there, I can't touch it. Okay. The city's gotta deal.
Yeah, I just, there's like big bushes.
right here.
No, I understand, but I'm saying is,
Yeah, no, I understand.
I got a couple of tree limbs in front of my house today.
Oh.
Even though I paid for them and I put them in there. The city comes out and says, well, I'm only cutting the ones that are my property, so, you gotta be real careful.
So I think that's a fair question too. We'll take a look at what the landscaping over there looks like and if we need to. Part of those cul-de-sacs, what I've learned is that the landscaping on the cul-de-sacs, when they were originally put there, were supposed to be the responsibility of the resident. But people have moved on in different, the same with traffic circles. That's
Oh.
what I've been told,
I
right?
didn't know that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't, that cul-de-sac there,
Never touched.
I doubt it if it was ever, that's what they envisioned, that the
Yeah.
residents were gonna take care of. Maybe the one in Parnell, because it's north of the alley, that might be a different story, but that one there being all the way to Pershing.
It's a little jungle there now?
Yeah, it's a little jungle.
Okay.
I mean, it's not I'm just,
Yeah, but if we're gonna improve that corner
Right.
with some beautiful townhomes where,
Yeah.
it's gonna be an improvement for everybody if we can give a little love to the landscaping over there.
There ain't much there. It wouldn't take much, you know what I mean?
yeah.
It wouldn't take much to just keep
Yeah.
it out.
I
Right,
think-
but you're right. If you touch it, the city's gonna come and say, why'd you touch it?
Yeah, well, that
But
does happen.
You gotta be real careful. with that.
Yeah, you do,
You know-
because you don't want to get a fine for, there's a pretty hefty fine. I don't know exactly what it is, but I think it's not insignificant. It's
That's
not
why
a,
it's a little coarse.
yes. Can we do a traffic study for that corridor over there, specifically around the alley, because I've had multiple conversations now. This is like 3 more. Echoing the same thing. I think we need to figure out how we can address some of that. I'm not sure what that would look like at this point, but we'll take a look at it. Yes.
I don't live over there, but I'm a dog walker over there for multiple dogs, and I always use the alley to like go in and out, cause I don't use by the bar, I go through. Is it normal where is it the one over, like, there's Parnell, and then there's the one before Parnell, and then one after Parnell, which one's normal?
Normal would be to
Normal
the
is
east.
After Parnell.
After Parnell,
East.
To the
so that's
east,
the dead
yeah.
end one, right?
Yeah.
So I always come in on the one before Parnell, go through the alley, and there's like that parking lot
Mhm.
there that's abandoned, and then I park up and down there and I go over to. I always use the alley. It's the only way, really. Cause it's a dead end. If I wanna get to any of those townhomes on the other side.
Right.
Cul-de-sac.
You're forced to use the alley.
Yeah.
And I think that's the challenge that Carol, you were just noting and Veronica mentioned on the phone, right? Welcome to my inheritance. Okay, we gotta figure something out. We gotta figure something out.
Alderwoman
Yes.
Mark Kupiec again. Just one small point on the traffic, and believe me, I've been listening. I understand the concern. But I would like to add, we're a little bit spoiled because the subject property has been underutilized these
Yep.
number of years. So obviously it fits in well because it's not generating much traffic. But any redevelopment of the site, even if you came in with a permitted use in the M zoning district, you would create new traffic, probably commercial vehicles, if it was a M use.
Mhm.
And for
Yeah,
for the residential use, if we're not talking townhomes, if we talk about a 3 or 4 story residential building facing Pershing, well, then for sure your parking would face the alley and the city would make you access your parking from.
yeah, I think,
Oh.
Mark, and I think there's not opposition.
Sure.
Again, I'm looking at around the room and I'm not
Understood,
hearing any on the
understood.
phone. There's not necessarily opposition to what's being proposed with the caveats of the one area of concern I think you can address is the trash, which, you know. Bill
Like I
just
said,
kick
I
back.
got an idea. I gotta run it to the architect to make sure that it all conforms.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
can be done. I think it's gonna be a variance,
Mhm.
but you know.
Right, so
We will clarify that for you.
yeah, so I am inclined to support the zoning changes. I'd like to see the improvement on the property, right? Because the corner, no offense, Bill, but it's, you can't say that on the call. It's not the prettiest site right? So I think everybody would like to see the improvement, and I think this has spurred an opportunity to have a more meaningful discussion about how we can calm traffic in the area, and look at how certain things are placed right now. I mean, I'm having this conversation in general about 35th Street right now. Obviously, you're just a few blocks south, and as far as tax traffic goes, there's a lot, it's a lot of the reason why you have cul-de-sacs to begin with, is my understanding. So let us take on the traffic piece of it. I think there's some things, there's some quick fixes that we can do, you know, and the speed bumps come to mind most urgently, but most immediately, because those are easy for us to do. And I think that is a deterrent to people who would use it as a thoroughfare because they've got to go through the hassle of going over speed bumps. It's not a long-term solution. That's not what I'm proposing at all. But I think we've got to have CDOT take a look at it and make some recommendations for how things, either get rerouted or, you know, maybe one end of the alley needs to be closed off at, you know, the townhomes that are to the west or at Ballpark. And I know it's a challenge for both, right? It's not safe for either the townhome inhabitants or the customers of Ballpark Hub, but people are using it as like as a thoroughfare to get from the alley to Pershing. So we don't want people cutting through. And that may also include better signage in the area that says no outlet here. This is for, local traffic only. There's no outlet from this alley onto a street, dead end, something like that. But let's have CDOT take a look at that. If you can provide the revision, talk to your architect, send me the drawings. To me, that's the only major hurdle here. If we can get that addressed to our satisfaction, then I'll go ahead and support the zoning change to an RT4 to accommodate the improvement to the property. Does that work? I mean, anybody else have any concerns?
As long as it's type 1, I think it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, so whatever they submit, then we'll share that and we'll send that out once we get that. Whatever I approve, we'll make public so that you can see what's being submitted. A type 1 is a type 1 is a type 1. So whatever he submits is what he's gonna be held. He can't build 4 more stories on top because he feels like it.
The only, if there's gonna be any difference, it's gonna be just a facade, colors of the brick or the offset. Buildings are gonna be whatever you see up there, that's what they're gonna be.
Great. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'm gonna go ahead and end the meeting. I appreciate everybody attending and joining us today. And just for the record, I can speak to the quality of his home because he built one that I lived in. And Mr. Barber has been in the community for a really long time. So thanks, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Thank you.